From Keene in the Shire, the Liberty Media capital of the world, this is Daryl W. Perry, host of FPP Radio News for Friday, December 21st, 2018. Silver is trading at $14.75 per ounce. Gold is valued at $1,262 per ounce. Zen is trading at $5, and the average price of Bitcoin is $4,080. Antiwar.com reports much of the hope for keeping the Hodeidah ceasefire in place in Yemen seems to be built around the future UN observation, but that might be a long time coming, as the resolution at the UN Security Council, which would give a mandate for such observers, is being held up by U.S. and Saudi Arabian opposition. The current resolution was penned with the support of Britain and is being pushed heavy by them. It mostly amounts to backing the agreements reached in last week's UN-brokered talks in Yemen. The U.S., however, is mad that the resolution doesn't single out Iran and blame them for the conflict, and wants the whole thing rewritten around that theme. Russia said they'd oppose anything that singles out Iran and doesn't mention Western nations selling arms to the Saudis throughout the war. Saudi Arabia was less concerned about that than the text that expressed support for an independent investigation into violations of humanitarian law during the war. The Saudis want to remove any mention of it being an independent investigation, in keeping of their long-standing insistence that they handle all of the investigations internally. Zencash has changed their name to Horizon to better represent their transition from a cryptocurrency to a pioneering platform that protects consumer data. They're working towards the day when anyone will be able to build privacy-based applications on the Horizon platform and generate income from them. Learn more at horizon.global and join the Horizon community. HORIZEN.global. UPI reports the U.S. House overwhelmingly approved a bill overhauling the country's criminal justice system on Thursday, sending the legislation to President Donald Trump's desk for a signature. The chamber approved the First Step Act with a vote of 358 to 36, 2 days after the Senate passed it by a margin of 87 to 12. Lawmakers expect Trump to sign the legislation into law on Friday. The legislation would reform several aspects of the U.S. criminal justice system, including allowing inmates to reduce sentences with an earned time credit program. Judges would also have more discretion instead of mandatory minimum sentencing for some drug-related crimes. It would also boost prisoner rehabilitation efforts in an effort to reduce recidivism rates, and life sentences for some drug offenders with 3 convictions or 3 strikes would be cut to 25 years. In addition, the discrepancy in sentencing guidelines between crack and powdered cocaine offenses would retroactively be reduced. The legislation, which would only affect federal crimes, would cut off a collective 53,000 years of sentences over 10 years, according to the Congressional Budget Office. The House approved a different version of the legislation earlier this year and had to amend it to make it compatible with the Senate version. Trump has described the reform as reasonable sentencing reforms while keeping dangerous and violent criminals off our streets. Trump tweeted, "Congress just passed the criminal justice reform bill known as the First Step Act. Congratulations. This is a great bipartisan achievement for everybody. When both parties work together, we can keep our country safer. A wonderful thing for the USA." Born into a devastating world and raised among the crowd, the Cloudwalker assumes a new identity and begins the unrelenting quest for truth. In this epic journey, he discovers dark secrets about aspects of his previous life that he once trusted. Through the journal of the Cloudwalker, he shares both the traumatic hardships and the eternal beauties of his experiences. Fueled in the beginning by his unsettling thoughts and emotions, he learns how to find peace with everything he has woken up to. Dear Society by the Cloudwalker is available from Amazon.com and all major bookstores. Reuters reports Republicans in the U.S. House of Representatives on Thursday added $5 billion to a government spending bill to help President Donald Trump make good on a pledge to build a border wall, a move that made a partial federal government shutdown more likely this weekend. The Senate is highly unlikely to pass the legislation, which funds agencies responsible for federal law enforcement activities, airport security screenings, space exploration, and farm programs, by a midnight deadline on Friday. Trump has said he would not sign a Senate-passed bill to keep the government running through February 8th because it lacked funding for a wall, a signature promise of its 2016 run for office, so Republicans in the House of Representatives scrambled to add money to appease the president. Trump demanded $5 billion be put towards a wall on the U.S. border with Mexico that he argues is needed to keep out undocumented immigrants and drugs, a down payment on a massive project which Democrats have rejected as ineffective and wasteful. The Senate has approved a bill late Wednesday that extends existing funding for agencies for 7 weeks, punting the funding issue into the next Congress. This has been FPP Radio News, online at FPPRadio.com.